Black people, it has been more than 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were brought in chains to the United States. If after all of this time your best assessment is that our plight and condition are the results of a silly slave syndrome myth, you should be ashamed of yourself. Furthermore, when we continue to believe such a silly premise, you are in fact literally functioning as a warden of your own mental prison. We must elevate our understandings above a silly slave syndrome myth and gain instead an accurate interpretation of our plight and condition. Because if our understandings remains flawed, then all of our liberating strategies and remedies that stems from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. The truth of our plight and condition are directly connected to our oppressors' monopoly over the narratives and media images that are fed into our collective minds. It is their greatest power over us. Most of our people are not actually perceiving our oppressors based upon an accurate interpretation of the true history shared between themselves and us. Most are instead inaccurately favorably perceiving them based upon those movies, TV shows, and comic books, constantly depicting themselves as being heroes, saviors, and as being defenders of the meek, and as righting all wrongs. Through their monopoly over the media images and narratives that are repetitively and systematically fed into our collective minds, they've given themselves an inaccurate, favorable image makeover within our collective minds. We're perceiving them based upon a fantasy instead of the true reality. It's the true reason why so many of us now reveres them in spite of such a brutally horrific history of the contrary. It's an elaborate brainwashing system. We are all victims of this brainwashing system. The weaker the mental fortitude that a person possesses, the greater the brainwashing is. Those people that we're calling sellouts and coons are actually those amongst us that possesses the weakest mental fortitudes. These are the Candace Owens and Uncle Ruckus types. And as for those of us that sees them as they truly are, we're falsely labeled as being racist towards them. Black people, we are also not perceiving ourselves based upon the people we truly are. Because our oppressors write all of our narratives and controls all of our mainstream media images, they therefore literally owns our interpretation of ourselves. They deliberately, falsely, negatively distort and marginalize our narratives and media images in order to condition us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate identity that aids them in maintaining their social dominance over our lives. This is why most of us don't know of any positive racially affirming facts about ourselves. Such as, for example, the fact that after slavery was abolished in the U.S. in 1865, in spite of receiving no reparation and being constantly plagued by the evils of white racism, nonetheless, between the years of 1870 to 1940, African Americans submitted 726 invention patents to the U.S. Patent Office. Those numbers more than doubled those submitted by whites during the same time frame. This was achieved in spite of the fact that African Americans then made up less than 3% of the U.S. population. The hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of white racism and slavery, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by Black people or directly inspired by early inventions by Black people. Without Black people, there would exist no automobiles, no aircrafts, no working light bulbs, no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phones. There would be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security system, no home game cartridge, no cataract laser removal scope, no caller ID, no touch-tone phones. We would have no steam engines, no motors, no traffic lights, no working light, no elevators. Therefore, no skyscrapers, no air conditioning. We wouldn't have the modern color PC. We wouldn't have 3D movies. We wouldn't have central heating. There'd be no refrigerators, no helicopters, no washing machines, no lawnmowers, no dryers, no refrigerated trucks, no blood banks, no fiber optics, no nanotechnology. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. There'd be no female sanitary pads, no bathroom tissue holders, no pencil sharpeners, etc., etc. The technological advancement made by Black people is extraordinary, but is hidden from you. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generation, the truth will sound absolutely ridiculous, and a speaker will sound like a raving lunatic. Because the white society writes all of our narratives, they falsely, negatively distorted them in order to condition us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, inferior identity that aids them in maintaining their social dominance over us. Doing so also creates and sustains false assumptions within the public at large that also aids in maintaining white social capital over the Black population. This is our reality. The time of believing in dumb shit is over. You must elevate your mind and see our true reality. It is the Black people's matrix.